Now let's return to the increasing pessimism among young people about their prospects of getting on the property ladder. A survey by the Halifax shows that 2/3 of adults who don't own a house don't believe they ever will be able to do so because of the cost involved. That means more and more people are renting instead. Well, to discuss the issue, I'm joined from Liverpool by father of two, David Berry, who's currently renting and resigned to the fact that buying isn't an option at the moment, and from Northampton by Charlie Barker, who bought a house at the age of 23. Let's start with David, with you. What's your feeling about the property market and why the pessimism?
I wouldn't necessarily say pessimism. I'd probably say more a sense of realism as to what we can and can't achieve at the moment. We spent a couple of years agonising over our inability to really get a mortgage that's to be able to buy a house that suited us. As our family has recently grown, I think basically come to the conclusion that if we keep on renting for the meantime, we can have a house that suits us currently, and in a couple of years' time, when our situation changes again, then maybe reassess the situation. But I think increasingly more and more people are coming to the same conclusion that I am, that it's just not the right time with the economy being the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, on mainland Europe, it's quite normal for people to spend their whole lives renting. Are you pretty much resigned to that? Are you happy to do that?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say I'm resigned to being a lifetime renter. I'd want to buy a house at some point. I just feel that right now isn't the right point in time.
Charlie, let's have a word with you. You're only 23, but you're already on the property ladder. How did that happen?
Well, basically, I just I started work as a teacher when I was 23, and when I was 21, in fact, and I saved up for 3 years with my parents. We're living at home with my parents, and that was enough. I'm obviously quite a different situation to David, who has dependents and has children, but I've only been responsible for myself, so I've been able to save enough money for a deposit, and that was, I think that was quite good. I bought a house in 2009. I've been paying off the mortgage for 2 years.
And how important did you feel it was to get on that property ladder, to invest in bricks and mortar, and do you go with the adage that there's no safer place to put your money?
Yeah, I think so. I was getting lots of, not pressure, but good advice, I suppose, from my parents, from my mum and my dad, saying, you're not spending any of your money, spend it on something that matters and buy a house. And because I was obviously living with my mum and dad and I was only responsible for myself, I didn't really have to spend anything, and I was a bit of a miser for tooth. But yeah, I think that property eventually is going to pick up again, so I think it's the place to put your money.
David, how tough has it been for you in the property market in terms of getting a mortgage? Is it a deposit? What did you find have been the big problems?
Oh, it's the deposit, really. Trying to save up for a deposit whilst paying rent with a family, obviously, it's just not realistic. It's not going to happen now for the next couple of years. With young children paying childcare costs, just like I said, I decided just to wait until our situation changes. Maybe the kids are in school, and then we'll reassess it. But for now, I just don't see it being realistic for anyone, really. For the amount that we could conceivably put away on top of our normal monthly outgoings, we'd be saving up for 25 years to get a deposit.
If there were the return to 95%, 100% mortgages, would that tempt you back into the market?
Oh, certainly, yeah. Not immediately, again, but possibly in a shorter amount of time than what I currently envisage to be going to the market, trying to get a mortgage.
And Charlie, do you think that the mortgages that you looked for were prudent? What would you say to those hoping for 95% mortgages?
I think that's reaching a bit. I mean, I think you've got to be a bit... I like to be quite sound, and my mortgage was, I think, I provided 18% as a deposit. I went through HSBC, I think, because I just wanted to, with all the banks being in trouble at the time that I got my mortgage, I think that was a big bank, and I felt that would be the safest bet. Yeah, I suppose I think that if you're going to save up, you need to save up a decent deposit. But I've also understand that if you've got 2-3 children, that's going to be really difficult to do.
Charlie, you're still a pretty young guy.
Yeah.
Were you looking towards the sort of the bank of mum and dad? That's a phrase that plenty of people have used. But is that something that people of your age rely on, do you think?
I think indirectly I have relied on that, in that I lived there for the first 3 years while I was saving, but I didn't ask for any money at all from my mum or dad to put the deposit down. But I was living there, so I suppose indirectly they were giving me money by, you know, not charging me very much at all for living and that sort of thing. So indirectly, yeah, but not for the deposit. I saved that up myself.
And David, the stress that can sometimes come from sitting there worrying about, can we buy a house, where can we go? Did it get to a point where you thought it's just not worth it?
Yeah, I think there's a certain sense of expectation. You know, you do things in a certain order traditionally, and buying a house usually comes somewhere after marriage and before kids. And you know, we did things in a slightly different order, and we don't have the situation that allows that to happen. And yeah, it does get on top of you. You know, I suppose you feel like a second-rate citizen. I think it's a very British thing, wanting to own your house and the stress associated with not being able to. But I think it made a lot of sense for us just to rationalise it and decide it wasn't going to happen for now, and let's just move on from it. And it was I think it was the best decision we ever made, to be honest.
Oh, good luck. A positive note to finish on. David Berry, Charlie Barker, thanks very much for joining us.